Welcome to Rewind and Review, your go-to channel for in-depth movie recaps and reviews. Today, we're diving into the epic tale of one man's fight for freedom, Braveheart, the 1995 classic starring Mel Gibson. This is more than just a movie. It's a story of courage, love, and sacrifice set against the rugged backdrop of medieval Scotland. So, sit back, relax, and let's journey together into the heart of this legendary film. Our story begins in the 13th century, in the rugged hills of Scotland. William Wallace is just a boy when his life is turned upside down. The English rule Scotland with an iron fist, and resistance to their control is met with brutal force. Tragedy strikes when William's father and brother are killed in a skirmish against the English. This loss leaves young William orphaned, his life forever marked by the violence of war. After the deaths of his father and brother, William is taken in by his Uncle Argyll, a wise and experienced man. Uncle Argyll becomes a guiding figure in William's life, teaching him the ways of the world and nurturing his understanding of Scotland's struggle. William is taken away from his homeland, travelling across Europe where he receives an education far beyond what most of his people could dream of. But the memory of his family's murder and the injustice faced by his people stays with him. William's return to Scotland years pass, and William Wallace returns to Scotland after being educated abroad. He's no longer the boy who fled from the violence that took his family. Now a man, Wallace seeks nothing more than a peaceful life. But peace is a fleeting luxury under English tyranny. Wallace's heart is soon captured by Murren, a woman whose beauty and kindness rekindle his hope for a better future. They marry in secret, knowing that the English lords would claim Murren under the cruel law of prima nocte, which allows them to take any new bride on her wedding night. Their happiness is short-lived. After a confrontation with English soldiers who attempt to assault Murren, Wallace retaliates. This act of defiance leads to a brutal retaliation by the English, resulting in Murren's tragic death. Overcome with grief and rage, Wallace is no longer the man who sought a quiet life. William rallies the villagers who are equally outraged by the murder. Together, they strike back. In a surprise attack, they descend upon the English garrison stationed in the village. With every swing of his sword, William's pain and anger are unleashed. The English soldiers who once held the village in terror are no match for the ferocity of the enraged Scots. William's leadership is undeniable, his skill in battle unmatched. The soldiers are overwhelmed and the village is freed from the immediate grasp of English rule. But this act of vengeance is just the beginning. What started as a personal vendetta for his slain wife soon becomes the spark that ignites a full-scale rebellion against English tyranny. William Wallace, the grieving widower, begins his journey to becoming the leader of a nation's fight for freedom. In this unforgettable scene, the personal tragedy of William Wallace fuels a revolution. His attack on the English soldiers is more than just an act of revenge. It's the birth of a movement that will shake the very foundations of power. The fire of rebellion ignites within him, and he vows to fight back. Wallace gathers his fellow Scots, men who have also suffered under English rule, and they rise up against their oppressors. What begins as a personal vendetta soon transforms into a full-scale rebellion. After years of enduring English oppression, William Wallace has had enough. The brutal murder of his secret wife Murren by the English soldiers ignites a fire within him, a fire for vengeance and freedom. Determined to strike back, Wallace gathers a small group of fellow Scots, united in their shared rage and yearning for justice. Under the cover of night, they approach the English garrison. The air is thick with tension as they silently prepare for their assault. With a sudden and explosive attack, they take the English by surprise, overwhelming the soldiers with a fury that has been building for years. The battle is brutal and swift. Wallace and his men fight with a primal intensity, showing no mercy to those who have oppressed them for so long. The garrison is set ablaze, the flames symbolizing the start of a rebellion that will soon spread across Scotland. Word of Wallace's victory spreads across Scotland, and more men rally to his cause. As Wallace continues to defy the English, he becomes a symbol of Scottish resistance, and his legend grows. However, victory on the battlefield is only part of the struggle. Wallace must navigate the treacherous waters of Scottish politics, where noblemen are more concerned with preserving their lands and titles than fighting for freedom. Among them is Robert the Bruce, a young nobleman torn between his loyalty to his country and his ambition for the Scottish crown. As Wallace's rebellion gains momentum, it draws the ire of King Edward, who is determined to crush the Scottish uprising. The English king deploys his vast armies, but Wallace and his men continue to defy the odds, engaging in guerrilla warfare that frustrates and exhausts the invaders. As the Scottish rebellion gains momentum, William Wallace leads his men into their first major battle against the English. The setting is Stirling, where Wallace's forces, though outnumbered, are fueled by a burning desire for freedom. The English army, confident in their superior numbers, prepares to crush the rebellion with brute force. But Wallace has a plan. He rallies his men with an impassioned speech, reminding them of what they're fighting for: freedom. As the English cavalry charges, the Scots hold their ground. At the last moment, Wallace signals his men to raise long wooden spears, impaling the oncoming horses and causing chaos among the English ranks. After the horses are impelled and the horse-mounted soldiers are defeated, William leads the Scots to engage the English front line and crash the English with a heavy blow that creates a bloody carnage on the battlefield. In the ensuing melee, Wallace's tactical brilliance and the fierce determination of his men turn the tide. The English, shocked by the ferocity and strategy of the Scots, are forced to retreat. Wallace's victory at Stirling isn't just a military triumph, it's a symbol of hope for Scotland's fight for independence. The betrayal at Falkirk, but even the bravest of hearts can be betrayed. At the Battle of Falkirk, Wallace's forces are met with treachery as Scottish nobles, bribed by the English, abandon the fight at a critical moment. The betrayal leads to a crushing defeat, and Wallace barely escapes with his life. Though wounded and disheartened, Wallace does not give up. He becomes a fugitive, continuing his fight against the English through acts of sabotage and guerrilla warfare. His relentless resistance makes him a hero in the eyes of the common people, but also a wanted man by the English. Despite his efforts, Wallace is eventually betrayed by those he once trusted and is captured by the English. Brought to London, he is subjected to a sham trial where he is accused of treason. Wallace's response is simple yet powerful. He cannot be a traitor, for he has never sworn loyalty to the English king. His words fall on deaf ears, and he is condemned to a brutal execution. As William Wallace faces his final moments, the crowd gathers, their faces a mix of anger and sorrow. Strapped to the executioner's table, Wallace's eyes reflect the pain of his tortured body, yet his spirit remains unbroken. The executioner offers him a quick death in exchange for a plea for mercy, but Wallace refuses. With his last ounce of strength, he summons a cry that echoes through the square: freedom. The crowd falls silent, moved by his unwavering courage. As the executioner's axe falls, Wallace becomes a symbol of the Scottish fight for liberty. Robert the Bruce, who once hesitated to join Wallace, finally takes up the mantle of leadership and leads Scotland to victory at the Battle of Bannockburn. Wallace's dream of a free Scotland is realised, though not in his lifetime. His legacy endures, a testament to the power of a single individual to change the course of history. The story of William Wallace reminds us that freedom is never given, it is fought for and it is won. As the sun sets on the hills of Scotland, the spirit of William Wallace lives on in the hearts of those who cherish freedom. His life, though marked by loss and sacrifice, remains a beacon of hope for all who strive to live free. This is the story of Braveheart, a story of courage, of defiance, and above all, of freedom. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of the most powerful stories of rebellion and heroism. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated with more epic tales. Until next time, remember, freedom is worth fighting for,